What this indicates is a system failure. Earlier this year, especially over the summer, we saw a lot of problems with a lot of airlines, and I pressed them to increase their customer service commitments, to put it in writing. And now that they have put it in writing, we can enforce that. So I reminded them of their promises and reminded them that we will be here to hold them accountable to things like taking care of the expenses of those passengers.
Ooh, Mayor Pete's going to hold them accountable. This guy's actually bragging about making Southwest put customer service commitments in writing. Yes, people want to get refunded for the chaos and have their expenses paid, as they should, but that doesn't help them right now. To hold the airlines accountable, you have to understand the problem. And it's not clear this administration does. There was a rash of these cancellations last winter and even during the summer. But so far, there have been no concrete solutions offered to remedy this travel gridlock. Joining me now, New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, member of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Congressman, Republicans take control next week. You sit on the Transportation Committee, lucky you. Will there be an investigation into this mess?
Well, there should definitely be hearings. I mean, we should definitely bring these airlines in and find out what is going on. I mean, they did get in this case, Southwest got $7 billion, and there was tens of billions of dollars that went out to all the airlines to keep them afloat. And you know what? They still furloughed employees. Right. They did not choose to upgrade their system there for scheduling, and that is what created a lot of the headache that you're seeing now. And as a matter of fact, I think what's really frustrating is the taxpayers foot the bill, $7 billion, and then they decide that they're going to issue dividends to their stockholders instead of making those necessary improvements to make sure that they can keep these flights on schedule and avoid these types of cancellations. Southwest, as you know, is point-to-point instead of a hub system.
Right.
And so if you cancel one, it kind of creates this domino effect. And that's exactly what happened here. But I think it could have been avoided had they had a more modern system in place.
I've been speaking to a lot of pilots over the last few days. They claim the Biden administration rejected a bill that Lindsey Graham and others put forward in the Senate that would lower, or rather extend, the retirement age for pilots from 75 to 67. Now, I guess it's okay to be a president at 85, but you can't fly a plane beyond 65. I got that. Why would they be opposed to something so elementary as lowering the retirement age, extending it to let pilots with proven experience stay in the skies a little longer?
Well, sure, especially if you have assistant pilot, if something were to happen, that there's a backup there, right? But obviously, there's a lot of bills that are in play right now that we need to take up seriously, I think, in the House majority. Right. What's really frustrating here is that Pete Buttigieg brought all these airlines in. He said he was holding them accountable. He said he was going to, push them to fix their operations so there wouldn't be cancellations. And he actually said, coming out of these meetings, that they were going to be prepared for the holidays, that he had fixed this for the holiday season. And then look what happened. And I think that's what's really frustrating to the American people is you always hear this administration talk about accountability and fixing things, and that yet we find out the same problem keeps getting worse. We see it at the border. We see it with inflation. We see it with supply chain issues. Right. It's just one thing after another that continues to get worse, and the administration's so out of touch. We have the president on a private plane to St. Croix. You've got energy prices through the roof. People can't afford their heating bills. They're choosing between putting food on the table and heat because of the inflation and the energy crisis that the president created. Yeah. And now we see a border crisis continuing to be made worse by this administration.
Yeah, well, speaking of private planes, Buttigieg, an advocate of increased government action to curb carbon emissions, he has taken at least 18 flights using taxpayer-funded private jets since taking office. Okay, it's unclear the exact number, but the FAA has charged federal agencies roughly $5,000 an hour to use its fleet. Congresswoman, again, rules for thee, not for me. What do you do about this, though? Remember, poor old Tom Price and the Trump administration had to resign for taking 26 flights. Pete Buttigieg is almost there.
I think we have to continue to shame them because there is a hypocrisy there. I see it firsthand. AOC takes not one, two gas-guzzling SUVs to go 2 blocks to go vote. from the House Legislative Building to the Capitol. Why? You know, why? And you claim to be the advocate for climate change and want all electric vehicles by 2035. There's just a hypocrisy here, and they're just so out of touch with the American people. Look, I'm all for clean energy, but we need diversification, right? We can't exclude our traditional energy sources like New York is. They're closing Indian Point Power Plant. They won't extend gas-fired plants. And now they're complaining that the electric rates are too high to run the public transportation system, our clean buses. So you know, there's a hypocrisy here, and they're about politics, not policy. And I think the House Republicans are going to be different. We're going to pass bills to push for energy independence and for border security and to address supply chain issues. We're going to do it. Now let's see what the Senate does in turn. But I think that's the only leverage we have right now.
Again, there's a through line through all these segments. Bad policies have consequences.
Sure.
And there's a domino effect, and the people, sadly, end up suffering. Congresswoman, thank you for being here. We will be staying in touch with you in the days ahead.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Gen Zers getting